Hello everybody and welcome in. Yes, another update with Peter Jensen from Harness Racing New Zealand. And Peter, we're down to Alert 2 in the next few days or so. I mean, it's exciting times for a lot of people. What does it mean for your sport and what does it mean for the people in harness racing?
Dave, look, it is going to be exciting if we get that announcement on Monday that we're moving through later in the week to Alert Level 2. You know, everyone on a personal level will be pleased, and certainly from a business perspective. Not 100% sure what it means just yet. The first thing is that our workouts, trials and race meetings are a workplace, and that's the first thing we must take into consideration. Everybody knows we can't have more than 100 people either indoors or outdoors, and so we're working with Rita and the other codes to understand what that means for us. We're doing that early next week, and we'll communicate with people after that in terms of what that means. Our question we've had quite a lot already is, can owners go on course? And that's just not something I can answer at the moment, but we will provide an answer next week.
In terms of the return to racing, I mean, it's going to be May 29th at Addington. I mean, how much work is going on behind the scenes in terms of preparations towards that date and, in the weeks leading up to it?
Yeah, there's plenty happening. Trials resuming next week at Addington, and there's a trials program and workouts program up on the website now, so that's really good progress, and I'm sure people will look forward to that. A couple of decisions made about refining the rating matrix for this period through to the 31st. So that'll be up again in the next day or so. That work was done in consultation with the handicapping working group, which includes a number of trainers, of course. So that was signed off by the board this week. And we've also agreed on the stakes percentage, which will be applied consistently across all 4 meetings for this discrete period. There was some suggestion from a number of people about whether we could move to not paying all starters in this scenario. That was considered. And like everyone I've spoken to, I've had about a 50-50 view on that. We've ended up staying with paying all starters, a slightly different breakdown and a consistent one, so everybody knows what that'll look like. And again, that information will be shared. Just one other thing to touch on is that Sire Stakes Board has shared some information on the races that they were going to run this year and put out some tentative dates for next year. And I think that'll be welcomed by people. They'll get a sense of what that looks like. Again, it looks like a number of those races will have to race on a public excluded basis. And I think it's important to note that the Sire Stakes Board do a really good job around their finance, and every cent that they should have that goes to those races, they do have. I think it's important also, though, to understand that some of the money that goes to those stakes comes from group race funding, and the reality is that money that was available this season, we just do not have. It's not going to get paid, and it won't get paid whether it's this season or next season. So the implication for that in terms of what the stakes look like, again, we can't be sure because we don't know what funding looks like for next year. But I think it's important for people just to understand that there shouldn't be an expectation for those races to run at the same level as they did this year. But what that exactly means, we just can't be sure. And again, once we know and have some more information from Rita on funding, we can share with participants what those stakes levels will be.
Of course, these are pretty uncertain times all round, and understanding is that the Junior Drivers' Championship has been a casualty just through those lack of funds that you talked about. Is that right?
Yes, 100%. Unfortunately, that's the case. Those funds that would have come into Harness Racing New Zealand haven't come, and that's where we pay the likes of the Junior Drivers Series, and it's also affected our ability to continue with the Country Cups Series. That won't happen, and we won't be paying any money that might have been due if the series had been completed, and they haven't been. So look, it's unfortunate. We don't want to be in that situation, but again, the money just isn't coming, and we can't pay money that we don't have.
There's been a lot of talk this week about Rita and its future, and talk of big job cuts, etc. How closely have you been involved in those talks, and what are the implications for HRNZ?
Look, we haven't been close to it, and nor should we be. That's a private employment matter for Rita. They've kept us up to date in an appropriate way, but I think we understand why they're doing what they're proposing. The new Racing Act suggests that Rita should be a more focused wagering model, so that is part of the issue. And the other key part, of course, is the effect of COVID-19 and what it's had on that business, as it has on so many. Our first thought, of course, is with the people that are affected. It's a very difficult time, as it is for so many people in New Zealand, and we will have seen in the last 24 hours, the New Zealand Rugby Union has announced, a halving potentially of their staff. And so like, everyone in those situations, it's difficult right across all sport. Everybody's got to cut their cloth to suit. In terms of what it means for Harness Racing New Zealand, we just can't know that yet. It is a proposal at the moment, so let's see what that looks like. Understand what the shape of their team will be, and then what that means in terms of are there some functions that will now come to the codes and that we'll need to consider how we manage those functions, or in fact, are there some things that just won't happen any longer? So a lot to think about, but look, we're just getting ahead of ourselves until that proposal is completed with the Rita team, and then we can share again with the industry once we understand that better what that looks like.
All right, Peter, thanks very much for your time. Next time we chat, no doubt we'll be in alert level 2 and getting ever closer to that return to racing at Addington on May the 29th. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dave.